coast to coast, direct from Austin. You're listening to the Alex Jones Broadcasting Network.
From his Central Texas Command Center, deep behind enemy lines, the information war continues. It's Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight. We're going to be joined in just a little bit by Alex Jones, and he's going to break down what I've been talking about in the last segment, and that is the uncontrolled immigration of unaccompanied alien children, as Homeland Security labels it. Unaccompanied alien children. In other words, parents in Central and South America, where the globalists have already gone in, collapsed the economy there, giving massive returns to the bankers who are running those countries, putting them into debt. As we've seen, going back to the days of Robert McNamara at the World Bank, where they were increasing the debt of these third world countries by up to 20% a year, essentially trying to take control of everything, creating a new feudalism where no one owned anything. Now, of course, we were told that the socialist revolutions were going to push back against that kind of rent-seeking, that kind of neo-colonialism. But then we look at somebody like Hugo Chavez. He's the one that Bloomberg is talking about giving a 700% return to the bankers. And at the same time, his successor is paying off. Barclays is bragging about how they're going to take care of their sovereign debt first, even though they've had over 40 people die because they can't get water. In just the last couple of months, they can't get water, they can't get medicine. They have to leave that country, that socialist paradise, where they were told that all this was being done for the little man. They were pushing back against the big corporations, against the big multinational corporations and bankers, and yet those are the ones who are benefiting, just as we see here in America with Obamacare, that it's the large corporations who are benefiting at the expense of the middle class, at the expense of the lower class, people who can no longer get jobs at the lower end because the companies cannot afford to keep them on as full-time employees, cutting their hours, maybe cutting their jobs entirely because they're having to buy insurance policies that cover everything, things that they will never use. As I pointed out, young men having to have policies that cover maternity leave, child raising. You can't put that kind of stuff in and have people be able to afford the insurance policies. Of course, if they opt out, now they're counting the money on the other side, and that is they think that maybe 4 million people will opt out, and that will give them $4 billion in new taxes, about $1,000 a person. That's the way they're rolling. It's all about either control or taking your money, transferring it to a corporation. But it's not just that it's dangerous for the children. It's not just that they're bankrupting their countries and now they're going to bankrupt our country. And what they're going to do is they're going to use these children with no connection to their families to balkanize this country, to weigh down our welfare system. You cannot have a welfare system and open borders at the same time. Even if you want to argue that you can have one or the other, you cannot have both of them at the same time. You can't have unrestricted immigration and have everything provided, or even much of what people need, education, food, allowances. You can't provide that for everybody just by opening up the borders. So you can't have a welfare state and open borders without destroying the country. But of course, we believe that is the plan of the Obama administration. What they would like to do is have essentially a 1984 on the top and a Brave New World on the bottom. In other words, if you come in, if you're a citizen here and you want to just kick back into a kind of hedonistic Brave New World at the bottom, zone out, watch sports, watch entertainment, watch their reality television, which is not reality at all. If you want to do that, they'll leave you alone like they did the proles in 1984. But if you don't want to do that, or if you're part of the infrastructure, if part of the bureaucracy, when the government, once the government owns everything, nobody will have any, there won't be a middle class, there won't be any businesses like there are today. But today, if you have a business, if you're part of the middle class, or even if you're part of the government bureaucracy, they're going to monitor you with a 1984 police state on the top, just to make sure that everything stays compartmentalized, just to make sure that you're not a dissident, just to make sure that you're not dangerous to them. That's what we see. But then the next step that they're coming at is global depopulation. They don't need us. They've got robots to do the lower work, and that's what they're working on. Alex is going to break that down for us in the next segment. Stay tuned.
Hi folks, Alex Jones here with some important information. I want to tell you about Matt Redhawk and his team of patriots over at My Patriot Supply. Several years ago, Matt was sitting in his 2-bedroom apartment, frustrated with the direction this country was headed and the charlatans willing to sell us out for a quick buck. Deciding to take action, a company run by patriots for patriots was born. My Patriot Supply has never taken a loan or accepted outside funding. They now operate 2 distribution facilities and employ over 50 hardworking American men and women. It is rare to find companies who practice what they preach. And that's why I stock my pantry with high-quality storable foods from My Patriot Supply. Go to mypatriotsupply.com/Alex today for special offers on emergency food storage, or call their preparedness specialist at 866-229-0927. That's 866-229-0927. Do business with someone who shares your values. mypatriotsupply.com/Alex.
There are, of course, those who do not want us to speak.
Just let me think.
In fact, even now, orders are being shouted into telephones, and men with guns will soon be on their way.
It's Chancellor Sattler.
Damn it.
Why? Because while the truncheon may be used in lieu of conversation, words will always retain their power. Words offer the means to meaning, and for those who will listen, the enunciation of truth. And the truth is, there is something terribly wrong with this country, isn't there?
You designed it, sir. You wanted it foolproof. You told me every television in London.
Cruelty and injustice, intolerance and oppression. And where once you had the freedom to object, to think and speak as you saw fit, you now have censors and systems of surveillance coercing your conformity and soliciting your submission.
We need cameras.
How did this happen? Who's to blame? Well, certainly there are those who are more responsible than others. They will be held accountable. But again, truth be told, if you're looking for the guilty, you need only look into a mirror. I know why you did it. I know you were afraid. Who wouldn't be? War, terror, disease. There were a myriad of problems which conspired to corrupt your reason and rob you of your common sense. Fear got the best of you, and in your panic you turned to the now High Chancellor Adam Sattler. He promised you order, he promised you peace, and all he demanded in return was your silent, obedient consent.
There is a war. It's happening now. It will decide the fate of humanity. The time to choose sides has come. We are the resistance. We are the InfoWar.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight in Austin, and we've been talking about immigration, rising, soaring immigration, as same time, of course, unemployment is rising and soaring, and the connections between that. We've got Alex Jones here with his take. Alex?
David, thanks for hosting the show on this 8th day. Can't believe that we're already well into this month of tyranny. We are seeing such incredible betrayals in this nation, as even mainstream controlled state-run media admits that Latin America, that's in the middle of a giant depression, is just telling their children, get to America. And we're talking 5-year-olds, 15-year-olds, you name it, are being given money and sent into Mexico, sent into the border states, pouring in from Venezuela, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Brazil. They have got hundreds of thousands of children under the age of 10 at different facilities. They've got thousands of them at a facility just down in San Antonio. And the Obama administration is saying, yes, we will take your children and they will stay here, which is only incentivizing more of the 7+ billion people that live outside of the United States, mainly Latin America, who's able to get here, but from China, you name it, are just pouring in to this country en masse. And then if you can get here as adults, you can have a baby free. You can have welfare. Just pull the lever to take the guns. Just pull the lever for socialism. Just pull the lever for banker bailouts. And the Republican leadership is going along with every bit of this because they've been bought and paid for by the same interest. And they are openly working with the leadership of the Democratic Party, the Republicans are, to target the Tea Party, the real resistance to the globalist takeover. The Republicans tried to co-opt the Tea Party. They couldn't do it. Now it's taking them over, and so the establishment's trying to kill it right now. But none of the media, other than Infowars.com and places like DrudgeReport.com, I know Drudge on Friday when we co-hosted together, covered all of this. The fact that we've got, even with federal cooked books on unemployment and on people on welfare, 92 million Americans not working, labor force at 16-year low, 7 million have left under Obama, lethargic economy, and you've got at least 30 million illegals undocumented who will vote for the destruction of this country. Over 90% of them end up voting on record for a socialist, globalist agenda. And again, the big corporations, Walmart and others, admit, they tell their employees, go out and get on welfare as a subsidy because you can't survive on what we pay you. Well, it's the same thing with the illegals. They get a subsidy of welfare. Most of them are on welfare, no ID needed. They're able to get 3 or 4 different IDs from the Mexican consulate that all the major banks accept, the AP reports. And so they're above the law, getting welfare as a supplement while their husbands do go and work, many of them working hard. And it's destroying the economy and collectivizing the economy, just like Chinese slave goods have done. This is a designed system to break this culture down. I know you're going to be taking calls coming up at the bottom of the hour and breaking this down, and I want to hear from the listeners on this because undoubtedly NAFTA and GATT were meant to domesticate this country and written as one-sided trade deals, and Ross Perot was right. But undoubtedly now we're going into this managed global economy, David, and we can see that the cheap third world labor is bankrupting Europe. Spain and Italy and Greece and others that were prosperous just a decade ago are imploding with cheap third world labor as well. They use African and Eastern European and Asian and Turkish labor there, Middle Eastern labor to undercut people. And again, it doesn't create a free market when you've got imploded third world nations pouring in who get government subsidies on top of it. That isn't a free market like 150 years ago, poor European immigrants or others coming here. That isn't the type of cheap labor that produces a large middle class labor. Later. We know it creates economic destruction. We can see the proof. And then you have the globalists, the big mega banks, the big recipients of the banker bailouts by the trillions, like Warren Buffett, lobbying for open borders, lobbying for higher taxes on the middle class, while they themselves are basically exempt. It's a perfect managed economy system to bring us to our knees, financially totally break us so that we are nothing but financial vassals. We are being conquered by 21st century high-tech economic warfare, and this country is being swamped right now. If they legalize the 30 million illegals by fiat and stop the deportations, as Obama has already done outside of Congress, and Congress won't impeach him, it sends a message to the world that if you can get here, you're going to be legal and you're going to be given a silver spoon in your mouth. So come here. And as long as you're anti-gun, anti-liberty, as long as you hate 1776, you're welcome. What a sickening story, David Knight.
Yeah, Alex, you know, we look at this surging immigration. What were once anchor babies are now becoming children coming into this society. And further down the road, another story that Drudge had up last week, at the end of the week, was the dawn of the robot revolution as armies of machines escape the factory. Of course, robots are coming. It's not necessarily going to be uncontrolled immigration that takes our jobs in the future. It's not going to necessarily be Mexicans. It's going to be metal cans that are coming out here. And what they're talking about.
And by the way, that's the perfect storm that the globalists, all from Ray Kurzweil to you name it, to Zbigniew Brzezinski, write about and talk about. Is that it's a design system to use a giant wave of human labor to drive down human worth. And then you have unlimited resources and rare earth minerals, basically, to have huge automated factories run by robots, serviced by robots that humans don't even know how to run now in many cases, pouring out ground drones, ground cars, ground tanks, ground ships, ground subs, ground cruise missiles. This is colonization, extinction, human obsolescence movement where the architecture of the world has been designed to bring this into fruition. France says they plan to have a robot race with China to replace humans with robots in the next 10 years in their factories. This is everything Bill Joy talked about, David.
Oh, yeah.